Number 8 is where I have my tie, and I have a tie between Kyle Juszczyk and Deebo Samuel. And
Okay.
no, this isn't a tie where I have one guy at 6 after this. I do have 11 players on my top 10. Yeah, I cheated a little bit, but I mean, if I could have, I would have included 12 because Eric Armstead is deserving. But I cheated once and included 11, and I have Kyle Juszczyk and Deebo Samuel. And to me, the reason. So let's start with Juszczyk, right? As complete a football player as there is on the team. He is
Yeah.
good at every single thing. There's two reasons why, for me, he's not higher on this list, actually. And I wanted to go highlight those. The first one was I think he had a really bad season in pass protection. They had him as the pass protection back in shotgun on third downs a decent amount this season, and he got run over a couple of times. He didn't have a really good season doing that. And then the other thing for me is that he only plays, like 40% of the snaps. For me, that's not enough for a guy that, yes, we're just including what you do when you're on the field, but the bottom line is, as talented as he is, as well-rounded as he is when it comes to his run blocking, his smarts, his route running, his hands, his pass catching, the unfortunate thing is they only still use him 40% of the time, which means that there are times that if you're one of the 10 best players on the team, if you're one of the 5 best players on the team, they won't take you off the field when you're that good. So for me, he's there. And then Deebo, I mean, there's no superlatives I can use to describe Deebo. He's my favorite player in the NFL. I love Deebo Samuel. I love the way he plays. I love the attitude he brings. And the reason I have him above Brandon Ayuk, so let's go to that. The reason I have him above Brandon Ayuk is because I think that he makes an emotional impact that Brandon Ayuk doesn't get. And I think that's what I really took into account. When Deebo Samuel plays, there's an infectious energy to this team that I think only George Kittle brings.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
And there's a reason why, and you can see it because there's a reason why Kyle Shanahan, when Deebo Samuel plays, in their first 3 or 4 plays, one of those plays is getting the ball to Deebo Samuel and getting the ball into space. And it's not like a
because if you get him in the game, you get the whole team in the game.
Right. Yeah, it's not an overly creative game. It's not always overly creative. It's a jet sweep or it's just a screen. And Deebo makes 3 guys miss, runs 4 people over, and now the entire energy of the game has changed. And he single-handedly won a game for the 49ers this season against the Rams on offense down the stretch. It was Nick Mullins just throwing him a shorter pass and Deebo just dominating. Even the first Rams game, honestly, you could really give a lot of that credit to Deebo. So for those reasons, I think I have him higher than Ayuk.
Okay, Daniel, I'll do what you're telling me. Thank you for the donation. Number 8, I have Mostert. You made a good argument for Deebo being ahead of Ayuk. It's really splitting hairs. The way I look at him is like they might be exactly the same. They're just like yin and yang.
Yeah.
Deebo's a little bit better before the catch. Ayuk's a little bit better. I mean, he's a little bit better after he's a little bit better after the catch. Ayuk's a little bit better before the catch, but they really both can do each other's job a little bit. They're very similar. I like them. They're terrific.
The bottom line is they're both incredible football players, and it honestly comes down to who you like more because they're both really, really good.
Yeah, it's a nice combo for the future. And again, if Deebo does what he did in 2019 next year, if Ayuk continues to play like he did as a rookie, these guys are top 5 players on the team. We're just kind of being cautious with them because they're young, or at least I am. So I'm going Mostert number 8. Again, because injuries are not factored in. The fact that he hasn't proven himself to be a bell cow is not an issue here. What he has proven himself to be is the fastest running back in the league, one of the most explosive guys. He seems like he's really strong too. Like, not as good running between the tackles as maybe Jeff Wilson Jr., but also he's pretty good running between the tackles. Shanahan sets him up. He sets up any running back, but I think at this point, Raheem Mostert would be good on any team, unless it was just a terrible team with no quarterback and no offensive line. And the thing that vaults him above Deebo on my list and Ayuk is the fact that he has the special teams background. Now, Deebo and Ayuk should be playing special teams, in my opinion. Deebo should be the kick returner. Ayuk should be the punt returner. And in that sense, they'd be higher. But Mostert has this whole background as like the best gunner in the league, which I'm not going to minimize. It's a part of being a football player. It is a testament to how well-rounded he is. He is another one-year wonder technically on this list. So
he's a half-year wonder.
Well, okay. I'm going to say he's a one-year wonder on this list. And I'm going to say that the special teams puts him ahead of the other 2 guys just slightly. That's how I'm looking.
Fair enough. And look, I don't want to discount Raheem Mostert because I think he is really good. He's really fast, great vision, and I think there is more power to his game than he gets credit for. I thought he played really well against the Rams and the Dolphins this season, like really phenomenal.
Really well.
And
yeah.
he was
that's what I'm thinking of.
So I don't want to discount it, but for me, the reason I don't have him in my top 10 is because I think that because of the game he had in the NFC Championship game and because of his story, I think fans and people in general tend to over romanticize what he's actually done. I feel like we use statistical arguments to bring down a lot of other players' production, but we never bring up the fact that this guy has only 100-yard rushing game in the regular season in his career. He has only a 4%. He had only a 4.5% broken tackle percentage in comparison to Aaron Jones, a player in a similar scheme who had 7%, and Jeff Wilson Jr., the same player who had 7%. In not the same player, excuse me, a player in the same scheme who had 7%. I don't want to take away from what he's done because he's a really good football player, but I do want to highlight a couple of things, and it's because one, I don't think he's, even when you look at as a running back, or is he the best at every single team amongst the running backs on this, at every single thing amongst the running backs on this team? I'd argue no. I'd argue if you say pass protection, you're going to say Tevin Coleman. I'd argue if you look at their shotgun run game that goes with trap and all the gap power run schemes that they use, those run schemes are most suited actually for Jeff Wilson, in my opinion, more than they are for Mostert. Not that Mostert isn't great at them. I just think Wilson's a little better at them. And I think Mostert is a really, really good football player, but I just think that because of his story and all of that, and because of what he achieved in a very short time, I think people are a little ready to overstate and anoint him, and I'm not ready to do that.
See, I take issue with what you're saying because now you're making me feel like you're saying it's an emotional pick. When you just admitted that Debo is, in a sense, an emotional pick because the emotional effect he has on the team. The way I look, we got to split hairs here because honestly, I did put Mostert ahead of Debo and Ayuk. So how do I justify that? Well,
no, fair. I didn't mean.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
okay, I didn't actually take issue. What I'm saying is, let me try my, because you really are a good debater. So let me do my best here. I'm saying that, yeah, you're right. He only had 100-yard game. That's one measurement. Another measurement is touchdowns. Those are pretty important. And True. He has 14 in his career, and Debo has 7 in 2 seasons. And I think one thing that people not gloss over, but don't fail to mention with Debo and Kittle as well, is that they will bring you down the field. But so far, they haven't shown that they will get you in the end zone. And Mostert does. Wilson, who I made honorary mention, does. So they get credit for that. They put the ball in the end zone. And that's a skill that Kittle and Debo, who are the co-MVP sometimes, haven't consistently put out there. So that's another reason I put this dude number 8. Okay.
Fair. And right. So where I really parse when it comes to the touchdowns and stuff is because you brought up his Jeff Wilson, his backup, who similarly has a high touchdown production, right? At one point in 2019, he had the most touchdowns on the team. Kind of crazy because he was only playing like 10% of the snaps. And so when I look at something like that, that's where I start to question, is it the scheme or is it the player? And I look at a guy like Mostert, and I know you said that he could succeed in any other scheme. In my opinion, he wouldn't succeed anywhere near the level that he succeeds in this scheme. And in my opinion, if you put Deebo Samuel on another team, I think he would be as successful as he is right here. So that's just my opinion on it. I mean, we're parsing, we're nitpicking.
Right.
There's, I said at the beginning, there's 20 players that are the 10 best players on the 49ers. Right. And I just have to make an argument why Mostert isn't on my list, even though I think he's phenomenal.
You made a good argument. I guess I just feel like it was fair to give him a credit for the touchdowns because although that is a team, I mean, you need the offensive line, you need the play call, all of it. I mean, he put the ball in the end zone. As great as George Kittle is, that's not really his skill set. And a guy like Jordan Reed can do, or like Deebo Samuel doesn't put it in the end zone as much. Kendrick Bourne does. So I'm not taking it away from them. I got to give a guy like Kendrick Bourne credit for that, or Jeff Wilson and Mostert. That's all I'm coming from.
Fair enough.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right.